Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. There's been a data download. We've got a ton of new things coming for this year's Dragon Ball Heroes celebration, and we've got the details for all of the upcoming EZAs. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and let me know if you're hyped and why you're there. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you're new. So of course, we're going to be having the summonable units and free-to-play heroes cards. The Tech Xeno Trunks is going to be receiving an Awakening and also a Strike Renewal EZA, which is this right here. There's going to be new special Dokkan events, which of course are going to give you the Awakening medals to awaken the new heroes units. There's going to be an easy area for stage 6 of Dragon Ball Heroes, which will EZA, I think she's called Lags, who came last year. We're going to be getting stages 4 to 6 for Ultimate Red Zone Dragon Ball Heroes. I've seen a lot of people recently say there's a Dragon Ball Heroes Red Zone. Yes, there is. It wasn't too difficult, not gonna lie to you. We are going to be getting stages 4 to 6. So I wonder how difficult that's going to end up being. Burst mode, which we already knew was coming. And then of course, the EZAs for all of the Dragon Ball Heroes units that are coming this year. Do you want to know what you're going to get for doing the burst mode for this year's Dragon Ball Heroes Dokkan event? You'll be able to trade in your points to get the Super Hearts theme or the Super Dragon Ball Heroes Big Bang Mission theme, which I think is pretty sick. So that's what you're going to get from doing that. And now we're going to go through all the EZAs and see if Dokkan's been cooking. Dokkan Battle Wiki coming through once again, so I will leave all the necessary links down in the description. They don't have the names, but we can gather who they are from the way they laid out. So from the first one is going to be the SSJ4 Vegito. He will now lead crossover with the 180 lead. He will greatly raise defense by 50% on super, cause immense damage to the enemy. On passive, will start with attack and defense plus 180, then gain an additional attack and defense plus 60% on super. Crossover allies will gain key plus 1, attack and defense plus 30%. Giant 8 power category allies will gain key plus 1, attack and defense plus 30% also, which does mean if you run him with the new EZA for SSJ4 Broly, also the Limit Breaker Broly, but more so the Limit Breaker SSJ4 Vegito, he will be gaining, and all of them will be gaining key plus 2 and attack and defense plus 60% because they do belong on both categories, which is really, really nice. He also has damage reduction received by 5% for every crossover or Giant 8 power category ally on the team, which is quite nice. So you can actually have a maximum of what, 35%? Unfortunately, what I will say is a lot of the heroes units don't have out and out like full-blown slot 1 units. I think Vegito could probably, or Limit Breaker Vegito could probably be one, but there aren't many like out and out slot 1 units. A lot of them are like slot 2 units and slot 3, apart from like a handful. So it would have been nice if a few of these end up being slot 1 units, but we'll have to see. Not only that, as well, has a 50% chance of nullifying enemy super attack and countering with tremendous power. So a possibility of what, 30-35% damage reduction, 50% on super, and also has a 50% chance to nullify and counter. Not bad, not bad. Pretty decent if I do say so myself. Next up is Super Saiyan 4 Broly. On super attack, he'll raise attack by 50% and raise defense by 30% for 1 turn. So Broly will stack his attack by 50%, which is really nice. Could hopefully do a lot of damage, but hopefully his defense can keep up. He'll cause immense damage to the enemy and greatly lower defense. At the start of turn, he'll gain 150% attack and defense when performing a super attack. So no start of turn attack and defense. Again, we're going slot 2, slot 3 units here. He will get key plus 2 and launch an additional attack. There's a 50% chance of becoming a super attack when there's another Giant 8 power category ally attacking in the same turn, which isn't really difficult when you consider EZA SJ4 Vegito, then the new Limit Breaker Vegito. Would say Limit Breaker Broly, but he isn't great, so there is that. But then there are just general like normal standard Giant 8 power category units that can fall under that bracket as well. So it isn't too difficult to trigger that. Launches an additional super attack when all allies attacking in the same turn are Giant 8 power category characters. So if there's one, he has a 50% chance. If there is a full turn of them, which again, it really isn't difficult to do, he'll have a guaranteed one, which means Broly could potentially super attack 3 times in 1 turn, 4 if you consider dupes and skill orbs, which means he could potentially stack 3-4 times in 1 turn as well, which is very nice. So yeah, the damage possibility with Broly is pretty good. He'll also gain an additional attack and defense plus 30% with each super attack performed, which is why those additionals are very useful as well. Defensively, if I had to guess, probably isn't the strongest, but does have a lot of damage behind him, again, especially with the stacking. The next unit is going to be Goddess Toa, who I think I have. She'll raise attack for 1 turn by 30%, cause supreme damage, or sorry, immense damage to your enemy, lowers attack and seals super attack. She'll start with attack and defense plus 180. All allies will gain key plus 3 and attack and defense plus 40%. She has a 50% chance of an additional attack plus 10% for all allies as well, taking that to attack and defense plus 50%. She then has a 50% chance of an additional defense plus 10% for all allies, and a high chance, a 50% chance of evading enemies' attack as well when HP is 50% or more. Extreme class allies will also gain attack and defense plus 60%, and she'll recover 50% HP when HP is at 50% or less once only. She'll then gain an additional attack and defense plus 40% of each attack evaded, up to 120. Her EZA is not bad. One thing this Goddess Toa has always been is a very good support. So if you have like an extreme class rotation, you're looking at a total of like key plus 3 and attack and defense, potentially if you get lucky, attack and defense plus like what, 100%, 110%, which is crazy, especially if they all like proc at the same time. But she looks decent, she looks solid, always been a very good support. The next one, which I know I do not have, is Xeno Deborah. I'm almost certain I do not have him. He'll greatly raise defense by 50% for 1 turn, cause immense damage with a 50% chance of stunning. The start of turn will start with key plus 3, attack and defense plus 150%, then gain an additional attack and defense plus 150%. He'll then launch an additional attack. There's a 50% chance of becoming a super attack, and attacked enemies attack and defense minus 35% for 2 turns when facing only 1 enemy. He'll then gain an additional attack plus 150 when a target enemy is in attack down or defense down status, and then gain an additional attack plus 100% and defense plus 200%, and a 50% chance of evading enemies' attack when facing 2 or more enemies, and then gain an additional attack plus 50% and damage reduction by 10% per existing enemy starting from the 3rd turn. Not a bad EZA. It would be nice if the damage reduction was immediate rather than from the 3rd turn. Maybe the Dragon Ball Heroes Red Zone is going to have multiple enemies even in the difficult stages, which will help him out a lot. If not, then Deborah is a pretty solid Super Battle Road ESBR unit if you want to use him where you can. But he looks alright. He looks very bog standard until the damage reduction kicks in, but then again it's only from the 3rd turn, which again, because it's based on existing enemies, by the 3rd turn in Super Battle Road and ESBR, you're almost done. So unless again Super Dragon Ball Heroes Red Zone, like the new stages, have multiple enemies, then this Deborah is a little bit meh. He's a little bit meh. But the next one is going to be Mars Saiyan, who I'm hoping is good, because that's basically my boy Jeets. It is my boy Jeets. He will raise his attack and defense by 30% for 1 turn, cause immense damage to the enemy and lower attack and defense. He will start with key plus 3, attack and defense plus 160 when attacking, then gain an additional attack and defense plus 120. Launches an additional attack. There's a 50% chance of becoming a super attack and a 50% chance of performing a critical hit when there are another 3 or more crossover category allies on a team. Performs a critical hit when there's an enemy whose name includes Goku. Yeah, it's very bog standard. Unfortunately, when it comes to Jeets this year, he really isn't getting shown much love. You know, you have the Tech Battle of Gods Jeets that dropped. You have the Berserker Controlled Jeets that dropped, who really isn't that great. And this EZA, again, isn't that great. Even Fizz transforming Vegeta doesn't get good until he hits God, which just isn't good enough right now with the content we have. So yeah, unfortunately, Jeets is he's okay. He's meh at best, unfortunately. I'm used to it. We do kind of have a second chance with his father though, with the Masked King EZA, where he'll raise his defense by 30% for 1 turn, cause immense damage to the enemy, greatly lower attack and defense. Attack and defense plus 150 at the start of turn, then gains an additional defense plus 150 for 5 turns after receiving an attack. He then gains an additional attack plus 50% with each attack received up to 150. Then gains an additional defense plus 100%. Guards all attacks when there's another character or another Dragon Ball Heroes category ally attacking in the same turn. That is pretty good. So gaining all of that extra build up, you're kind of padded out to do that with his guaranteed guard, because again, you're going to run these units with other Dragon Ball Heroes units. That's literally the way they're built. So that guard is guaranteed. So that build up kind of for free in the beginning, depending on who you're facing and how well he can actually tank. I mean, we'll find out without all that build up. But the guaranteed guard is very nice. Not only that, he'll recover 10% of damage dealt as HP, which is not bad either. Decent healing. We've seen it with like Zamasu and Rose units recently. Guard, build up with the guard, raises defense by 30%. I'm really intrigued to use him. I'm really intrigued to use him to see how far that guard is going to get him. I'm really intrigued. Not bad though on paper. Looks pretty good. The next one we do have is Super Mirror, who I know I definitely have. I've been link leveling him. He will greatly raise defense, so he will stack defense immediately. That's already very good. Hopefully he has a ton of additionals in his passive, but immediately stacking defense by 50% is very nice. He'll also greatly raise attack by 50% for one turn as well. So not only is he stacking his defense by 50%, but he's also raising his attack by 50% for one turn as well. That's really nice. Good start. Cause supreme damage to the enemy. He will start with attack plus 200% and defense plus 100%. He will disable enemy's guard. He will then gain an additional attack and defense plus 50% when performing a super attack. Then gain key plus 2 and launches an additional super attack when all allies attacking in the same turn or Dragon Ball Heroes characters. Again, you are going to be running these units with other Dragon Ball Heroes units, and that is a guaranteed additional. No chance he is going to do it, which means not only will you stack twice by 50% on his defense, which is great, but you'll also get a second 50% attack raise for the turn as well, dealing even more damage. Already, I'm actually liking Mirror a lot. Pretty sure he was useless when he dropped and got Dokkan Awakening. So already he's been shown some love. Attacks enemies attacking defense minus 30% for 2 turns, then gains an additional attack plus 100% and a 70% chance upon a critical hit when he attacked enemies in attack down or defense down status. The only thing about that is you can't really lower too many enemies apart from like a handful of stages or events. But the stacking is decent. The only thing is he only has sheer numbers to rely on. So when it comes to like difficult content, like the proper difficult content, relying on just sheer numbers is only going to get you so far. The guaranteed additional is nice, but guaranteed numbers or just relying on just sheer numbers is only going to get you so far. So again, he's okay. He's okay. I think if I had a little bit more about him, like a little bit of damage reduction or something, that stacking could go a long way. Or if I had like a ton of additionals, not just one. And then finally, we have Demon God Demigra. On super attack, he'll raise attack and defense by 50% for one turn, cause supreme damage to the enemy. He will start with attack and defense plus 140, then gain an additional attack and defense plus 70% when performing a super attack. Extreme class allies key plus 4 and defense plus 40%. All enemies attack and defense minus 30%, and then an additional attack plus 20% for crossover category allies on the team, and then an additional defense plus 10% per extreme class ally on the team. I can't lie, he's meaty. He's meaty. Demon God Demigra is meaty. He doesn't have a lot going for him. In terms of the EZAs, I think a few of them are decent, like Vegito and that. They're decent, they're solid. A lot of them, I think, maybe they'll probably be good for the new Dragon Ball Heroes stage, but I think for like Zamasu, a lot of them just can't compete, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it would have been nice if the EZAs could share like the same longevity that, say for example, the new Limit Breaker SSJ4 Vegito is going to have because of how good he can be. So I guess we'll find out when we actually get to use them, which will literally be tomorrow. But I think a lot of them are lacking, but they can be useful in other areas of the game, but we'll see. But do let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, good rest of your day, and post.